Okay, let's dive into this mind-bending puzzle from the natural world. It seems that nature has a bit of a copycat streak. As you can see from all these different animals, evolution has a funny way of repeating itself, which leads to one massive question.
Have you ever really thought about this? We see species that are worlds apart on the evolutionary tree, yet somehow they end up with these uncannily similar features. Now, this isn't just some random coincidence, it's a pattern. And in this explainer, we're going to crack the code behind it.
Okay, let's just consider this pair. On the surface, they share that iconic streamlined shape, just perfect for gliding through the water. But biologically, they couldn't be more different. One is a fish, and the other is a mammal.
Or how about these two? They're separated by millions of years of evolution. One's a mammal, the other is basically a modern-day avian dinosaur. And yet both of them independently mastered flight, using remarkably similar wing structures. So how on earth does this happen?
At first glance, this whole thing just looks like a massive coincidence. But it's actually a predictable pattern. Let's investigate how evolution manages to independently invent the same superpowers time and time again. So the official scientific term for this is convergent evolution. It's the process where different species arrive at the very same solution to a problem, even when they start from completely different places. To really understand how it works, let's open up our first case file. And our first piece of evidence is one of the most surprising examples you will ever see. It has to do with something you look at every single day: fingerprints. So, on one side, we've got humans, we're primates. On the other, we have koalas, marsupials from Australia. Our evolutionary path split apart tens of millions of years ago. We have no recent shared ancestor that would explain a trait as incredibly specific as fingerprints. And yet, here is the absolutely wild part. Their fingerprints are almost identical to humans. So similar that they could easily be confused at a crime scene. This isn't some shared family trait. It's something that evolved twice, completely on its own. So why did this happen? Well, the answer is pretty simple. It's all about function. Both of our species faced a similar problem: the need to grip things really, really well. For our ancestors, it was about handling tools. For koalas, it's about clinging to the smooth bark of eucalyptus trees. The problem was the same, so evolution arrived at the exact same solution: a specific ridge pattern for traction. Okay, our next case file takes us out of the trees and deep into the ocean, where we see the same pattern but on a much, much larger scale.
Remember these two from the beginning? Let's just be crystal clear about how different they are. The shark is a fish that breathes through gills. The dolphin is an air-breathing mammal whose ancestors, believe it or not, once walked on land.
And yet, just look at the result. Both of them developed that powerful hydrodynamic torpedo shape, complete with a stabilizing dorsal fin. It is the ultimate body plan for a fast-moving predator in the water. So what was the driving force here? Simple physics. The rules of moving through water are exactly the same for every creature. To be fast and efficient, you have to minimize drag. The environment itself demanded speed, and this sleek, streamlined form was the absolute best solution. Evolution found that solution twice from two completely different starting points. And this pattern is just everywhere you look. Think about wings for flight. They evolved separately in mammals like bats, in birds, and in extinct reptiles like pterodactyls. Or the camera-like eye, which popped up independently in vertebrates like us and invertebrates like the octopus. Even on totally different continents, desert plants like cacti in the Americas and euphorbias in Africa evolved the exact same spiky, water-storing bodies to survive. So, we've seen all the evidence. Now it is time to put the clues together and solve the evolutionary why. What's the actual mechanism behind all of this? The process is actually surprisingly straightforward. First, you've got different species facing a similar environmental problem. Second, natural selection starts to favor any traits that help solve that problem. Finally, over millions of years, this process just channels evolution toward the single best solution, and that leads to the same optimal trait popping up all over the place, independently. So the most important thing to get is that this isn't some weird, mystical copying of a blueprint. It's all about raw efficiency. Nature finds the most direct and effective solution to a problem, no matter what a species' starting point is. You could call it evolution's ultimate shortcut to success. And once you really understand this principle, you start seeing it absolutely everywhere. It's not just about ancient history, it's a living process that tells us something really profound about how life itself works.
So here's the big takeaway. The story of convergent evolution shows us that the development of life isn't entirely random. It's actually constrained and guided by the laws of physics, chemistry, and ecology. When a problem has one best answer, life, in all its incredible diversity, will very often find that answer on its own. So I'll leave you with this thought. Now that you can recognize the pattern, a similar solution to a similar problem in totally unrelated species, what's the next example of convergent evolution that you'll spot out there in the world around you?